Imagine being in the hospital, on the brink of bringing new life into the world, only to realize that the very people you thought would be your biggest supporters are nowhere to be found. This is the story of my emergency labor, my twins, and the unexpected betrayal that changed everything. I'm a soon-to-be mother, filled with excitement and anxiety as I prepare to welcome twins into my life. The nursery is painted, tiny clothes are folded, and my heart races with anticipation. But beneath the surface of this joy lies a deep-seated fear of the unknown, fear of complications, and fear of how my family will react when the time comes. As my due date approaches, the world around me feels both vibrant and overwhelming. Friends and family shower me with love, but I can't shake the feeling that my parents, who have always been a cornerstone of my life, may not be as supportive as I need them to be. Priorities seem to lie elsewhere, and I can't help but wonder if they'll be there when I need them most. Little did I know, the moment I went into emergency labor would reveal the true colors of my family. With VIP tickets to a Taylor Swift concert one night and a Drake show. The next day, my parents' excitement for their plans overshadowed my desperate call for help. In that moment of crisis, I would learn that sometimes the people you love the most can also hurt you the deepest. The day started like any other, filled with the usual flurry of last-minute preparations. I was Sancherloop weeks pregnant with twins, and every little kick and movement reminded me of the life growing inside me. The nursery was finally complete, adorned with soft pastels and tiny toys, and I felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. I had a checklist of things to do, pack the hospital bag, finalize the birth plan, and ensure everything was in place for the arrival of my little ones. As the sun set, I felt a strange sense of foreboding. I brushed it off, attributing it to the natural anxiety of impending motherhood. My partner and I decided to have a quiet dinner, savoring the last moments of our life as a couple before becoming a family of 4. We laughed, reminisced about our journey, and shared our hopes for the future. But as the night wore on, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Around midnight, I woke up with a sharp pain in my abdomen. At first, I thought it was just a normal part of pregnancy, but the pain intensified. I tried to breathe through it, but soon it became unbearable. I reached for my phone, my heart racing as I called my partner. He rushed to my side, concern etched on his face. We decided to head to the hospital, but as we drove through the quiet streets, panic set in. I could feel the contractions getting closer together, and I knew something wasn't right. The fear of complications loomed over me like a dark cloud. What if something happened to the babies? What if I couldn't handle the pain? As we arrived at the hospital, I was overwhelmed with a mix of emotions, fear, anxiety, and a desperate need for reassurance. The sterile environment felt cold and unwelcoming, and I was suddenly acutely aware of how alone I felt. I thought about my parents, how I had hoped they would be there to support me, but their absence felt like a heavy weight on my chest. The nurses quickly assessed my condition, and I could see the concern in their eyes. They rushed me into a room, and I was surrounded by medical equipment and bright lights. I felt vulnerable and scared, my mind racing with thoughts of what could go wrong. The doctors explained that I was experiencing complications due to the twins' positioning, and I would need to be monitored closely. As the hours passed, the pain became more intense, and I felt a sense of helplessness wash over me. I was hooked up to machines, and the beeping sounds only heightened my anxiety. I longed for my parents to be there, to hold my hand and tell me everything would be okay. Instead, I was left with the reality of my situation, alone, scared, and fighting for my babies. The emotional turmoil was palpable. I felt a mix of anger and sadness towards my parents for not being there when I needed them most. I had always envisioned them by my side during this monumental moment in my life, but now, all I had was the medical staff and my partner who was doing his best to comfort me. As the sun began to rise, I knew I was on the brink of a life-changing moment. The fear of the unknown loomed large, but I also felt a flicker of determination. I was ready to fight for my twins, no matter what it took. As I lay in the hospital bed, the pain still fresh and the uncertainty looming, I knew I had to reach out to my parents. I picked up my phone, my hands trembling as I dialed their number. I hoped they would drop everything and rush to my side, just as I had always imagined they would during such a critical moment. When my mother answered, I could hear the excitement in her voice, a stark contrast to the chaos surrounding me. Hey, sweetie, what's up? She chirped, oblivious to the gravity of the situation. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my voice. Mom, I'm in the hospital. I'm in labor, and it's complicated. I really need your help. "'Kay?" There was a brief pause on the other end, and I could almost hear the gears turning in her mind. "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry, but we have those VIP tickets to the Taylor Swift concert tonight. Your dad and I have been looking forward to this for months. Can't you just manage for a bit?" I felt my heart sink. "Mom, this isn't just a regular labor. I'm scared, and I need you here." But her response was dismissive, as if my fears were trivial compared to their plans. "We'll be there as soon as we can, but you know how important this is for us. Just focus on the babies, okay?" The call ended, and I was left in stunned silence. I couldn't believe what I had just heard. My parents, who I had always relied on for support, were prioritizing a concert over my emergency. It felt like a betrayal, a sharp reminder that their excitement for life overshadowed my desperate need for family. As the hours dragged on, I felt a wave of isolation wash over me. The hospital room, once filled with the sounds of medical staff bustling about, now felt like a prison. I was surrounded by strangers, and the absence of my parents felt like a gaping hole in my heart. Pop Charles. I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. How could they choose a concert over their own daughter in her time of need? The emotional turmoil was overwhelming. I thought about all the times I had been there for them, the sacrifices I had made to support them through their own challenges. Yet, in my moment of crisis, they had turned their backs on me. I felt angry, hurt, and utterly alone. As the reality of my situation sank in, I realized I couldn't rely on my parents anymore. I needed to take control of my life and my circumstances. I made the decision to hire help, reaching out to a postpartum doula who could assist me once the twins arrived. It was a step towards independence, a way to reclaim my power in a situation that felt so out of control. In that moment, I also decided to cut my parents off emotionally. I couldn't allow their dismissive behavior to hurt me any longer. I needed to protect my heart and focus on my new family. It was a painful decision, but I knew it was necessary for my well-being. As I lay in that hospital bed, I felt a sense of clarity wash over me. I was no longer the scared daughter seeking approval. I was a mother ready to fight for her children. I would build my own support system, one that valued me and my needs. The days following the labor were a blur of emotions and physical recovery. I had successfully delivered my twins, a boy and a girl, and while the joy of their arrival was overwhelming, aftermath was equally challenging. The hospital room, once filled with the sounds of my labor, was now a sanctuary of new life, but it also served as a reminder of the emotional turmoil I had just endured. The nurses were attentive, checking on me regularly and ensuring I was healing properly. I was grateful for their support, but I couldn't shake the feeling of loneliness that lingered in the air. My partner was by my side, doing his best to help with the babies, but I longed for the comfort of my parents. I wanted to share this momentous occasion with them, to see their faces light up with joy as they held their grandchildren for the first time. Instead, I was left with a void that felt insurmountable. As I recovered, I found myself reflecting on the labor experience. The pain, the fear, and the isolation were still fresh in my mind. I had fought through complications, and now, as I held my twins in my arms, I felt a surge of determination. I was their mother, and I would do everything in my power to protect them, and provide them with the love and support they deserved. Once I was discharged from the hospital, the reality of life with twins set in. The first few weeks were a whirlwind of sleepless nights, diaper changes, and feeding schedules. I quickly learned the importance of time management and organization, as every minute counted when caring for two newborns. The twins were beautiful, but they also required constant attention. I found myself juggling their needs, often feeling overwhelmed. There were moments of joy, like when they would coo at each other or fall asleep in my arms, but there were also moments of frustration and exhaustion. I had to learn to be patient with myself and accept that it was okay to ask for help. In those early days, I relied heavily on the postpartum doula I had hired. She became an invaluable resource, offering guidance on feeding, soothing techniques, and even self-care tips for me. With her support, I began to find my footing as a mother. I learned how to manage the twin schedules, and slowly but surely, I started to feel more confident in my abilities. As I navigated the challenges of motherhood, I couldn't help but reflect on my parents' actions during my labor. Their absence weighed heavily on my heart, and I found myself grappling with feelings of betrayal and disappointment. I had always envisioned them as my support system, but their priorities had shifted in a way that left me feeling abandoned. I thought about the conversations we had shared over the years, the moments when I had confided in them about my dreams of becoming a mother. I had hoped they would be there to celebrate this milestone with me, but instead, they had chosen a concert over my emergency. It was a painful realization, and I struggled to reconcile the love I had for them with the hurt they had caused. In my quiet moments, I found myself questioning whether I could ever forgive them. I wanted to believe that they would come around, that they would eventually understand the gravity of their actions. But as the days turned into weeks, I realized that I needed to focus on my own healing and the well-being of my twins. I couldn't allow their choices to dictate my happiness. With the help of my postpartum doula, I began to build a support system that was rooted in understanding and compassion. She not only assisted with the twins, but also encouraged me to connect with other new mothers in my community. I joined a local mothers group, where I found solace in sharing experiences with others who were navigating the same challenges. These connections became a lifeline for me. I discovered that I wasn't alone in my struggles, and the camaraderie among the mothers provided a sense of belonging that I had been missing. We shared tips, offered emotional support, and celebrated each other's milestones. It was a refreshing reminder that family could be found in unexpected places. As I embraced this new support system, I felt a shift within myself. I was no longer the scared daughter seeking approval. I was a mother forging my own path. I learned to prioritize my needs and the needs of my twins, and I began to let go of the resentment I had felt towards my parents. While I still grappled with the pain of their absence, I found strength in the community I had built. I realized that I could create a nurturing environment for my children, one that was filled with love, support, and understanding. The journey of motherhood was challenging, but it was also incredibly rewarding, and I was determined to embrace every moment. As I settled into my new life as a mother, the decision to cut off emotional ties with my parents became increasingly clear. Their dismissive response during my labor had left a deep scar, and I realized that I could no longer allow their actions to dictate my emotional well-being. I needed to protect my heart and create a safe space for myself and my twins. I began by setting boundaries. I stopped reaching out to them for support, both emotionally and physically. I unfollowed them on social media, a small but significant step in distancing myself from their lives. It was painful to sever those ties, but I knew it was necessary for my healing. I wanted to focus on building a positive environment for my children, free from the negativity that had clouded my relationship with my parents. In conversations with friends, I found myself sharing my feelings of betrayal and hurt. They listened, offering empathy and understanding. I realized that I wasn't alone in my experiences. Many people had faced similar challenges with their families. This realization helped me feel validated in my decision to cut ties. I began to understand that it was okay to prioritize my own mental health and the well-being of my twins over familial expectations. Alongside the emotional cutoff, I also focused on achieving financial independence. The decision to hire help during my postpartum recovery had been a significant investment, but it was one I deemed necessary for my well-being. I wanted to ensure that I could provide for my twins without relying on my parents, who had shown they were not dependable in times of need. The journey to financial independence was not without its struggles. I had to navigate budgeting for the twins' needs while also managing my own expenses. I started to explore freelance work that I could do from home, allowing me to contribute financially while still being present for my children. It was a balancing act, but I was determined to make it work. As I began to earn my own income, I felt a sense of empowerment wash over me. I was no longer dependent on my parents for financial support, and that realization brought me a newfound sense of freedom. I was building a life for my twins that was rooted in my own values and priorities, and it felt incredibly rewarding. The emotional and financial cutoff marked a significant turning point in my life. I began to embrace personal growth in ways I had never anticipated. I started reading self-help books, attending workshops, and seeking out resources that would help me become the best version of myself. I was determined to break the cycle of dependency and create a strong foundation for my children. Through this journey, I discovered my own strength and resilience. I learned to trust my instincts as a mother and to advocate for my needs. I became more assertive in my decisions, whether it was regarding my parenting style or my career choices. I realized that I had the power to shape my own narrative, and I was no longer willing to let others dictate my path. As I grew more confident in my abilities, I also became more aware of the importance of self-care. I recognized that taking care of myself was not a luxury but a necessity. I began to carve out time for activities that brought me joy, whether it was going for a walk, practicing yoga, or simply enjoying a quiet moment with a cup of tea. These small acts of self-care became essential in maintaining my mental and emotional well-being. In the midst of the challenges of motherhood, I developed coping mechanisms that helped me navigate the emotional ups and downs. Journaling became a powerful outlet for me. I poured my thoughts and feelings onto the pages, allowing myself to process the complexities of my experiences. Writing became a form of therapy, helping me to articulate my emotions and gain clarity on my journey. I also sought support from my new community of mothers. We would gather for playdates, sharing our struggles and triumphs. The camaraderie we built was invaluable, and I found comfort in knowing that I wasn't alone in my challenges. We celebrated each other's victories, no matter how small, and offered a listening ear during tough times. Additionally, I made a conscious effort to practice mindfulness. I learned to be present in the moment, whether it was during a feeding session or while playing with my twins. I found that being fully engaged in those moments helped me appreciate the beauty of motherhood, even amidst the chaos. Mindfulness became a tool for grounding myself, allowing me to navigate the challenges with a clearer mind and a more open heart. As I continued to grow and evolve, I realized that cutting off emotional ties with my parents had not only been a necessary step for my well-being, but also a catalyst for my personal transformation. I was no longer the scared daughter seeking approval. I was a mother forging my own path, empowered by my experiences and ready to embrace the future. It was a quiet night, the kind where the world outside felt still and peaceful. The twins were finally asleep, their soft breaths filling the nursery with a sense of calm. I had just settled into the couch with a cup of herbal tea, relishing the rare moment of solitude. The house was dimly lit, and I could hear the faint sounds of the clock ticking in the background, a reminder of the passage of time. As I sipped my tea, I felt a wave of exhaustion wash over me. The days had been long, filled with the demands of caring for 2 newborns, and I was grateful for this brief respite. Just as I began to relax, a sudden knock echoed through the stillness of the night. It was sharp and unexpected, sending a jolt of adrenaline through my body. My heart raced as I glanced at the clock midnight. Who could be knocking at this hour? I hesitated for a moment, my mind racing with possibilities. Was it a neighbor in need? A friend who had lost track of time? But deep down, I felt a sense of dread creeping in. I knew that the only people who would dare disturb my peace at such an hour were my parents. The thought sent a shiver down my spine, and I felt a mix of anxiety and anger bubbling to the surface. I approached the door cautiously, my heart pounding in my chest. As I opened it, the sight before me confirmed my worst fears. There stood my parents, looking disheveled and weary. My mother's eyes were red-rimmed, and her makeup was smudged, as if she had been crying. My father stood beside her, his expression a mix of concern and regret. They looked older than I remembered, the weight of their choices etched into their faces. My mother's usually vibrant demeanor was replaced with a somberness that felt foreign. I could see the hesitation in their eyes, a stark contrast to the confidence they had displayed when they had chosen to prioritize their plans over my needs. In that moment, I felt a rush of conflicting emotions. Part of me wanted to slam the door shut and retreat into the safety of my home, while another part of me felt a flicker of compassion for the people who had once been my pillars of support. But the hurt from their previous actions loomed large, napatasm persationer, and I struggled to reconcile the love I had for them with the pain they had caused. "Can we come in?" my mother asked, her voice trembling slightly. I could hear the vulnerability in her tone, a stark contrast to the dismissive attitude she had displayed during my labor. I stepped aside, allowing them to enter, but my heart was heavy with uncertainty. As they crossed the threshold, I could sense the tension in the air. My mother immediately glanced around the living room, her eyes landing on the nursery door, which was slightly ajar. "Are the babies okay?" she asked, her voice laced with concern. I nodded, feeling a mix of pride and protectiveness over my children. They were my priority now, and I wasn't sure how to navigate this unexpected visit. My father cleared his throat, breaking the silence that hung between us. "We wanted to talk to you," he said, his voice low and hesitant. "We've been thinking a lot about what happened, and we're sorry. We should have been there for you." Ekal. Their words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of regret. I could see the sincerity in their eyes, a fort content, but the hurt from their previous actions was still fresh in my mind. I wanted to believe them, to accept their apology, but the scars of betrayal ran deep. How? As I stood there, emotions swirled within me like a tempest. Part of me wanted to embrace them, to forgive them for their absence during my time of need. I could see that they were genuinely remorseful, at Dasher fun, and I felt a flicker of hope that perhaps we could rebuild our relationship. But another part of me was still angry, still hurt by their choices. How could they have chosen a concert over their own daughter in labor? I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. "You have no idea what it was like for me," I said, my voice trembling with emotion. "I was scared and alone, and I needed you. Instead, you chose to prioritize your plans." My mother's eyes filled with tears, and she reached out to touch my arm. "We know, and we're so sorry. We were wrong. We didn't understand the gravity of the situation, and we regret it deeply. We didn't know how to handle it." Her words struck a chord within me. I could see the pain etched on their faces, the realization of their mistakes weighing heavily on their hearts. But as much as I wanted to forgive them, I couldn't ignore the hurt that had been inflicted. Conflict within me raged on, torn between the desire for reconciliation and the need to protect myself and my children. In that moment, I realized that this was not just about my parents' regrets, it was also about my own healing. I needed to process my feelings, to find a way to navigate this complex situation. As I looked into their eyes, I knew that the road ahead would be challenging, but perhaps it was a road worth exploring. As we settled into the living room, the atmosphere was thick with unspoken words and unresolved feelings. I gestured for my parents to sit, my heart racing as I prepared to confront them about the pain their actions had caused. The twins were asleep in the nursery, blissfully unaware of the emotional storm brewing just outside their door. "Thank you for coming," I began, my voice steady but laced with emotion. "I didn't expect to see you here tonight, especially after everything that happened." I could see my mother's eyes welling with tears, and my father's expression was one of deep concern. "We know we messed up," my father said, his voice low and sincere. "We've had time to think about it, no one spore hausa, and we realize how wrong we were to prioritize our plans over you. We should have been there for you, and we're truly sorry." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of their words. "It's not just about missing the birth of my children," I replied, my voice trembling. "It's about feeling abandoned when I needed you the most. I thought you would be my support system, and instead, I felt completely alone." My mother nodded, her face etched with regret. "We didn't understand how serious the situation was. We were caught up in our own excitement, and we didn't think about how it would affect you. We're so sorry for that." As the conversation, I found myself addressing not only the recent events, but also past grievances that had lingered in our relationship. "This isn't the first time I felt let down by you," I said, my voice rising slightly. "There have been moments throughout my life where I've needed your support, and it felt like you weren't there for me." My parents exchanged glances, and I could see the realization dawning on them. "We know we haven't always been the best parents," my father admitted. "We've made mistakes, and we're sorry for the times we've let you down. We want to do better." I felt a mix of anger and sadness as I recounted specific instances where I had felt unsupported. "There were times I needed you during my teenage years, and I felt like you were more focused on your own lives than on mine. I've carried that hurt with me, and it's affected how I view our relationship." My mother's tears flowed freely now, and she reached for my hand. "We never meant to hurt you. We were caught up in our own lives, and we didn't realize how it impacted you. We want to change that." As we delved deeper into the conversation, I began to explore the themes of forgiveness and understanding. I realized that while their actions had hurt me, holding on to that pain would only continue to weigh me down. "Forgiveness is a process," I said, my voice softening. "I want to forgive you, but it's going to take time. I need to see that you're committed to being there for me and my family moving forward." But my parents nodded, their expressions earnest. "We understand," my father said. "We're willing to do whatever it takes to rebuild our relationship. We want to be a part of your life and your children's lives, but we know we have to earn that trust back." Kaung. I felt a flicker of hope as I listened to their words. Perhaps this was the beginning of a new chapter for us. "I want to believe that," I replied, "but it's going to require open communication and a willingness to be vulnerable. I need to know that I can count on you, especially as I navigate motherhood." As the conversation continued, I began to envision what the future of our relationship could look like. I wanted to create a space where we could communicate openly and honestly, free from the misunderstandings that had plagued us in the past. "I think it's important for us to set some boundaries," I said. "I need to know that you respect my choices as a mother, and that you'll support me in the way I need." My parents agreed, and we discussed what those boundaries might look like. We talked about the importance of being present for each other, not just during the big moments, but also in the everyday challenges of life. I wanted them to be involved in my children's lives. We're certain, I freckles, Nime, but I also needed to ensure that their involvement was supportive rather than intrusive. As we wrapped up the conversation, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. We had addressed the hurt, acknowledged our mistakes, and expressed a desire to move forward. It wouldn't be easy, but I was willing to give it a chance. "I'm open to rebuilding our relationship," I said, my voice steady. "But it's going to take time and effort from all of us." My parents nodded, their expressions filled with determination. "We're committed to making this work," my mother said, her voice filled with sincerity. "We love you and want to be a part of your life and your children's lives." As they left that night, I felt a mix of emotions: hope, uncertainty, and a sense of empowerment. I had confronted my parents, addressed the pain they had caused, and opened the door to a new beginning. It was a step towards healing, not just for me, but for our entire family. As I sat in the quiet of my living room, watching my twins sleep peacefully in their cribs, I couldn't help but reflect on the tumultuous journey that had brought me to this moment. The experience of labor, the emotional fallout with my parents, and the subsequent confrontation had all been pivotal in shaping who I was becoming as a mother and as an individual. I realized that the challenges I faced had forced me to confront my own vulnerabilities and insecurities. I had always sought validation from my parents, hoping to earn their approval and support. But through this experience, I learned that my worth was not defined by their actions or opinions. I was capable of standing on my own 2 feet, making decisions that were best for my family, advocating for my needs. The journey of motherhood had become a catalyst for personal growth. I discovered strengths within myself that I never knew existed. I learned to trust my instincts, to listen to my heart, and to prioritize my well-being and that of my children. Each day brought new challenges, but with each challenge came an opportunity for growth. I was no longer the scared daughter seeking approval. I was a mother ready to forge my own path. One of the most significant lessons I learned was the importance of setting boundaries. In the past, I had often allowed my parents' opinions and expectations to dictate my choices. But as I navigated the complexities of motherhood, I realized that establishing clear boundaries was essential for my emotional health and the well-being of my twins. I began to understand that boundaries were not about shutting people out. They were about creating a safe space where I could thrive. I communicated my needs to my parents, expressing what I expected from them moving forward. I wanted them to be involved in my children's lives, but I also needed them to respect my choices as a mother. This newfound sense of self-worth empowered me to stand firm in my decisions. I learned to say no when necessary, to prioritize my own needs, and to advocate for my family. I recognized that I had the right to create a nurturing environment for my twins, one that was free from negativity and judgment. As I embraced my role as a mother, I also focused on building a new family dynamic with my twins. I wanted to create a loving and supportive environment where they could thrive. I made a conscious effort to be present in their lives, to engage with them, and to foster a strong bond from the very beginning. I found joy in the little moments, feeding them, rocking them to sleep, and watching their personalities begin to emerge. I cherished the laughter and the chaos that came with raising twins, and I learned to embrace the unpredictability of motherhood. Each day was a new adventure, filled with challenges and triumphs, and I was determined to savor every moment. I also recognized the importance of involving my partner in this journey. We worked together as a team, supporting each other through the sleepless nights and the demands of parenting. We communicated openly about our needs and expectations, ensuring that we were both on the same page. This collaboration strengthened our bond and created a solid foundation for our family. As I reflected on my journey, I realized that love and family were not defined by perfection, but by resilience. The challenges I faced with my parents had taught me that relationships could be messy, complicated, and fraught with misunderstandings. But they could also be a source of strength, healing, and growth. I learned that love was not just about being there during the good times. It was also about showing up during the difficult moments. It was about acknowledging mistakes, seeking forgiveness, and working towards understanding. My parents' willingness to confront their actions and express their regrets was a testament to the power of love and the potential for healing. Moving forward, I was committed to fostering a family dynamic that prioritized open communication, empathy, and support. I wanted my twins to grow up in an environment where they felt safe to express their feelings, to make mistakes, and to learn from them. I wanted to instill in them the values of resilience and compassion, teaching them that it was okay to seek help and to lean on others when needed. In the end, my journey had been one of transformation. I had faced my fears, confronted my past, and emerged stronger than ever. I was ready to embrace the future with open arms, knowing that I had the power to shape my own narrative. Love, family, and resilience would be the guiding principles as I navigated the beautiful, chaotic journey of motherhood. As I reflect on the journey that has brought me to this point, I am filled with a profound sense of gratitude and resilience. From the moment I went into emergency labor, through the emotional turmoil of feeling abandoned by my parents, to the eventual confrontation and resolution, each step has shaped me into the mother I am today. I have learned invaluable lessons about love, boundaries, and the importance of self-worth. The experience of labor was not just a physical challenge, it was an emotional awakening. I discovered the depths of my strength and the power of my voice. I learned that it is okay to prioritize my needs and the needs of my children, even when it means making difficult decisions about relationships. The journey taught me that healing takes time, and forgiveness is a process that requires patience and understanding. For anyone who finds themselves in a similar situation, feeling unsupported or abandoned by loved ones, I want to offer a message of hope and empowerment. You are not alone in your struggles, and it is okay to seek help and build your own support system. Surround yourself with people who uplift you, who respect your choices, and who are willing to stand by you during both the joyous and challenging moments of life. Lisa, remember that your worth is not defined by others, it is inherent within you. As I move forward in my journey as a mother, I am committed to fostering an environment of love and understanding for my twins. I want them to grow up knowing that it is okay to express their feelings, to seek help when needed, and to embrace their own unique paths. I hope to instill in them the values of resilience, compassion, and the importance of building meaningful connections with others. In closing, I want to emphasize the significance of support and understanding in our lives. Relationships can be complex and misunderstandings can arise, but it is through open communication and a willingness to listen that we can bridge the gaps. Love is not just about being present during the good times, it is about showing up during the difficult moments and working together to heal and grow. As I look ahead, I am filled with hope for the future. I am ready to embrace the challenges and joys of motherhood, knowing that I have the strength to navigate whatever comes my way. My journey has been one of transformation, and I am excited to continue writing my story, one filled with love, resilience, and the unwavering bond of family.